I have to ask this because I'm from Alabama. Does Scout have anything to do with Harper Lee To Kill a
Yes,
Mockingbird?
of course. That's why
Okay.
she loved that book, so she named him Scout. Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Welcome to the Cozy Pet Podcast, the one and only, as far as I know, podcast that is dedicated specifically to talking about the furry and feathery friends in our cozy mystery books. We all, if we read cozy mysteries, we love the pets. It's almost a universal thing, and you wouldn't be here if you didn't love the pets in your cozy mysteries. So welcome, and I am Chris Abernathy, host of the Detective Whiskers Cozy Mystery Series, and each episode I bring in another author that writes cozy mysteries to talk about the pets in their books. And today I've got Michele PW. You go by your initials there. Is that because everybody
And
like
also
me has some
Pariza
difficulty
Wacek.
pronouncing
Yeah.
your name or spelling it or
Yes. Yeah. So if you search for me for Michelle PW, you'll find it, but it's Pariza Wacek, Michelle Pariza Wacek. But yes, spelling it and pronouncing it is difficult.
make it as easy for the readers that want to find you as possible, right?
Exactly.
All right, so we want to talk today primarily, and you've got a lot of different things out there. You write in multiple genres and you got different series, but today I want to have you on the show to talk about your Redemption Detective Agency series, which is a new series and got some new stuff coming up with it. The first case is the mysterious case of the missing motive. Tell me a little bit about this series and the animals that we fall in love with when we read it.
So the Redemption Detective Agency is actually a spin-off from my Charlie Kingsley Mystery Series. So that's kind of the place to start. But you do not have to read the Charlie Kingsley Mystery Series to enjoy the Redemption Detective Agency. And the Detective Agency takes place in the 1990s. And how it became kind of a spin-off is a couple of the characters that we meet in the Charlie Kingsley Mystery, some of the older sleuths, because there's a silver sleuth thing as well. They decide they're going to form their own redemption. They're going to form a detective agency, and they of course have no, one is a retired nurse and one is a retired teacher and one owns a bookstore. So none of them have any experience in either private investigating or owning a business. Well, the bookstore owner does, but she's actually she does own a business. Like she's got some business experience, but she's not very good at that. So there's a just but so there's a, it's more just like, hey, let's do this type of thing, and. But the person that we hear from, her name is Emily. Emily is Aunt Tilde's niece, and Emily has she has lost everything. She in the beginning of the mysterious case of the missing motive. So she's fired. Her fiance has kicked her out. Her fiance has taken all of her money, so she's got nowhere to go, and she's kind of being blackballed by her employer. So she ends up in Redemption, living with her Aunt Tilde and working at the Redemption Detective Agency. And so that's how we start. And Emily doesn't like pets. Emily doesn't actually
Oh,
like animals very much. So she likes things just so. She's very organized, and she likes, and animals are kind of messy.
they
But
can be, yeah.
through the course of the
Crazy.
book, she she ends up adopting a big old yellow lab who was wandering around in her aunt's backyard, and she fed her, and the dog's name is Scout, and also there is a cat named Sherlock that Aunt Tilde owns, and Sherlock also comes to the detective agency, and then Nora the bookkeeper has a cat named Smoke that also visits. So we have a variety of those animals.
So we got plenty of animals. How
Yeah.
much are they just hanging around or are they actually helping to solve the cases?
So in this first one, they don't actually solve the case. So that one is more but that book, there's a lot going on because we're setting up the detective agency. We're kind of, so there's a lot of moving parts in that one. There's also a really strong rom-com element. There's a lot of humor, and there's a romance angle. So the book is really half romance, half cozy mystery. So in that case, we're just kind of getting our act together. And so, and the Redemption Detective Agency actually doesn't even really exist. So Emily is the one that really has to try to, get it into something that sort of resembles a business. But the second book, which is coming out May or June, depending on what happens on I'm doing a cross country move as I'm recording this. So depending on how that works out, will depend on when I actually release it. But that's called The Mysterious Case of the Missing Dog Walker, and Scout is going to be instrumental in finding and actually solving that case. So that he's going to be a far more a part of it. And I think also then one after this is The Mysterious Case of the Missing Ghost, which he'll also have a part of.
All right. I have to ask this because I'm from Alabama. Does Scout have anything to do with Harper Lee, To Kill a Mockingbird?
Yes, of course. That's why she loved that book, so she named him Scout. Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. I actually narrated an audiobook about Harper Lee a couple of years ago. I just really loved it. We've got tickets for my birthday. We're going to go and watch the live performance of To Kill a Mockingbird in Monroeville. They do it every year. It's a big town production, and so it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to do. I've been wanting to do that for years. So anyway, awesome. I'm so glad to hear that. You got me hooked now. Right. So another important question is communication. In some cozies that have animals, the animals can communicate with one or more humans. In some, they can't. In my series, there's no talking between humans. Detective Whiskers can talk to other animals, but not to humans. But he finds a way, they work out a way slowly through the series to be able to communicate in some way. How does it work in your books?
So in my books, they're not talking. So it is it's like having it's like having dogs and cats. But yeah, they do kind of find a way to do this. So there's another cat that's in this book. This cat's name is Midnight. And this cat, Midnight, is actually also in the Charlie Kingsley Mysteries. And Midnight is also actually a version of him is in The Secrets. And I'm bringing this up to the Secrets of Redemption series, because that actually is, even though that's a psychological thriller series, that's actually where this whole redemption started, and Charlie Kingsley is actually a spinoff from that. So the Secrets of Redemption series, in that case, the cat's name is Oscar. And it takes place now versus 1990s, which is where the other two series takes. And Oscar actually has a really big role in that. It's a 9-book series, and he actually saves Becca. She's the main character in 2 books. Mm-hmm. So it's actually, even though again there's no talking, but it's clear enough. And then anyway, so that's how that is. And so Midnight, so some of that has bled into kind of Midnight in the 1990s, where he's a very smart cat, and he ends up he can sometimes sort of jump in to help things when in a more like when we first meet in book 4 is when we meet a little mini poodle that ends up being a part of it. Mm-hmm. And that's and so that we have a whole kind of thing going on between those two. So there is some of that as well. And Midnight makes an appearance in this book too. So I'm going to have Midnight kind of pop in and out on this Redemption Detective Agency. But it is very it's more like dogs and cats, the way as a pet owner you would communicate with your
they do communicate.
They do communicate.
So Redemption Detective Agency, again, that's set in the 1990s.
Yes.
Why did you choose to go back to that decade, and how much fun do you have working in stuff from the 90s?
Well, I have a lot of fun. So first of all, I love writing in the 1990s. Sometimes I wish we could go back to the 1990s. But why was actually a very practical reason. So the Secrets of Redemption series takes place. So that's current times, and the way that book starts is Becca. It's the first book in that series is called "It Began with a Lie," and Becca shows up in Redemption because her Aunt Charlie has. Will has died and willed her house to her. And Aunt Charlie is actually a character in that book because Becca, the house is haunted. But when I say haunted, I mean haunted like real life haunted stories. I don't mean like a Stephen King book. So it's so the haunting shows up in things like unexplained noises, stuff that you would find in real life. And so how Charlie talks to her Aunt Charlie talks to her is through dreams. So through dreams about Aunt Charlie. And so Aunt Charlie Kingsley ended up being this just amazing character. I mean, she started off, I had the wrong name. She was just the dead aunt. And then suddenly she became like this fully formed, very complicated character. And with a whole.
It's crazy how that happens.
I know, with the huge.
Suddenly reveal themselves to you.
It was a huge backstory. In fact, books 4 and 5 in that series is Charlie's backstory. So in the middle of this, because Aunt Charlie's dead in current time, so I had to go back to the 1990s because and this is a whole, when I wrote books 4 and 5, which is actually how she got to Redemption, and those took place in the late 80s. And then I suddenly just, somebody else anyways, it's kind of a long story. I don't need to get into all the details, but basically what happened is, Charlie let me know that we were writing a cozy series and she was going to be solving mysteries. And in order to be able to do that, I had to have it take place in the 90s because otherwise it wouldn't have worked.
One of my first books before I started writing cozies, I had been in radio for 35 years. So my first couple of books were about a radio morning show. And I wrote one in present day, and then I went and wrote the prequel back in 1988 when the show got together. And it was just a lot of fun bringing in the Trans Am and all these other things that were, pieces from the past and just kind of making that part of the story, and some celebrities that people, I remember him, So yeah, it's fun to go back in time and get back to something that is, I dare say, cozy for a lot of us. It's comforting to be back in a time when things were simpler for us, right?
Yeah, just taking out the whole internet or having internet be a really low part, like, she'll go to the library and do a little searches, but not having that, those phones or texts. I mean, they're fine. I've written of current days. I mean, it's fine to work it in, but it's really nice to kind of take that whole element out and just focus on, phone calls and face to face, talking.
Get out there on the streets and actually do the work. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and be able to take away some of the technological magic. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
All right. So, if I'm right, you've got the case of the dog walker coming up. You said in May or June, and then there's a third one that you've already got planned in this series, right?
Yes. So that's the mysterious case of the missing ghost, and August should be when that one comes out.
How do you know if a ghost is missing?
I know, isn't that interesting?
When the house was haunted and now it's not, or how does that work?
That is exactly. So the premise with that is because they're all cold cases, I should add. So that's the other thing that's in this is it's well, not all of them, but that's kind of the focus, is a lot of cold cases. Mm-hmm. So in this particular one, there is a woman, an older woman who her husband died, and he died over. There was a lot of mysterious things going on with that, and but she was convinced that he was haunting the house. And then one day she heard a door slam and his ghost was gone. So she hires the detective agency to find her missing ghost.
That's an interesting way to set up a mystery. I like that. But we've got to get back. We've kind of gotten a little bit distracted here. I apologize, everybody. We haven't talked as much about the animals as we really need to. So tell me some more about Scout. I want to know about Scout.
So Scout is great. So basically, how we meet Scout is I won't say all of it, but Scout is a stray dog, and he's kind of hanging around the house. And again, like I said, Emily is not. This is not really her thing, but she's out in the backyard doing gardening because she likes to garden. She likes and Aunt Tilde's her backyard is a mess, as you can imagine. So it's kind of like this whole I can't think of the name, but it's the opposite. It's like the clean person, the person who's really neat, living with
The
the real
housekeeper that always has a messy house, or the gardener that
yeah.
always has the messy garden. Yeah.
So Aunt Tilde is not. So it's Aunt Tilde's house. So Emily's living with her on a garage that's in an apartment above the garage, and so Aunt Tilde is very chaotic, very colorful, very much like everything's just kind of everything is chaos. So Emily decides she's going to clean up the backyard. So she's out there weeding and cleaning things up, and that's when Scout makes an appearance. And Scout doesn't want anything to do with Aunt Tilde. Aunt Tilde tried to feed him, but he wouldn't listen. But he came for Emily. So and of course, then she had to give him a bath and all that, and then ended up keeping him. That was the whole thing. She was convinced that she was going to have to take him to the. She was going to give him take him to the Humane Society, but Scout won her over, and that's actually also when Midnight made an appearance to also let her know that he wanted Emily to keep the dog. So there's a whole thing in there.
So what kind of dog is Scout?
He's a yellow lab.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a nice, friendly yellow lab, but he's big and he's shed. So Emily wasn't too keen on that immediately.
I can relate. So again, in the first book in this series, animals not getting too involved in the actual
solving the case.
Solving the cases.
Right.
They're work. Everybody's kind of coming together.
Yes. And where some of it is coming in, like, Scout has got a great sense of people. So he'll, so people he likes, people he doesn't like. So that's going to be part of it as well. Cause obviously he's pretty good at that. And Sherlock, is the cat. That's Aunt Tilde's cat. So where Aunt Tilde got Sherlock was in Charlie Kingsley. That was actually a cornucopia murder. So Sherlock also was a stray. So that's how we end up with Sherlock, and it's a little calico cat, and Sherlock and Scout get to be great friends.
Very good. All right. Well, what about the dog walking in book 2, which I understand may not be completely finished yet since it's not coming out until May or June, but I'm sure we're going to have some additional animals coming.
Yeah. So in that one, the love. So there's kind of a love triangle going on, and Nick is an attorney. That's that's a love interest, but he has this girlfriend, and the girlfriend is the one who gave them the next case, which was her aunt had a dog that disappeared a year ago, and she thought that the Redemption Detective Agency could help find the dog. So Emily goes to talk to the aunt, only the aunt to say that no, I never had a dog. So now we've got this whole, like, I was going to call it the missing dog, but that seemed too, I don't know. I was a little afraid. So that's why I went with the missing dog walker. So, because there is a missing dog walker. So that is part of that whole thing. So
but we're more concerned with finding the dog than the dog walker, right?
Yeah. So, and they do find the dog and the dog walker. So no dogs are possibly harmed, but I didn't want to, like, I was a little afraid with, like, the mysterious case of the missing dog. I don't know. I was a little concerned that, it's like a dog disappearing, and then anyway. So that's why that ended up being the name.
Is there something wrong with us in the cozy mystery world that, all right, we're going to kill off this old lady, we're going to kill off so and so, all these people, they got to die. We're always going to have somebody that gets killed at the beginning and maybe in the middle as well. What? You want to harm an animal? No, that can never happen in a book.
I know.
And I'm not saying I want to change that. I'm just saying there's something wrong with us that we don't care about these people, but don't you dare harm one hair on an animal.
I know. So it's funny. It's not even just the cozy world; it's the psych thriller world. So I'm in a very large psych thriller reader group, and it's the same thing. Like, it's and people will say it's like it's like, oh, we got torture, we got murder, we got rape, sexual abuse with kids. All this stuff happens, and then but like, wait. There's a dog that shows up. Is the dog going to get hurt? I can't finish the book unless the dog is going to get hurt. So
I guess it's got to be just the unconditional love. 'Cause,
yeah.
they come into our lives, whether through a book or real life, and they just love us, and they don't ask a lot, a little
Yeah.
bit of attention, make sure they've got enough food that they don't die, maybe an extra treat every now and then, and they'll do anything for us.
I
So,
know.
I don't know, but it's absolutely a rule in case anybody hasn't noticed it.
Yeah.
And if you're writing certainly a cozy mystery, but also, as you say, other genres as well, you better not harm the animal in your story. I don't care who does it, what character
Yeah.
does it. I don't care what kind of harm it is. Can't happen. Just
No.
can't.
Yes, that's the one thing that people talk. I think there's even a couple of websites that where it's like I think it's like does the dog die or I think it's
Yeah.
doesthedogdie.com or something, and that's you can check books to see if that happens. Yeah,
Maybe we're just all scarred from Old Yeller because I know it
I
scarred
think
me.
so.
I- If you don't know what Old Yeller is, don't go find out.
Yeah, yeah.
Is there anybody? It used to be everybody knew Old Yeller. There may be a generation now that just has no clue who Old Yeller is. If you are a young person watching this podcast or listening to this podcast and you don't know about Old Yeller, do yourself a favor and keep it that way.
Yes.
And maybe even Bambi too.
Yes.
Because it
No,
didn't used to be this way. We grew up with stories where animals had horrible things happen to them.
I know.
Now that doesn't happen anymore.
It
And I
really
think
doesn't.
that's
They
for the
really
better.
cleaned a lot of that up. Yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, those were the big kid movies, and
Yeah, or Dumbo too. Dumbo, what
yeah,
happened to his mom? That got whitewashed as well.
yeah. So I don't know, but I like it this way. Let's leave the animals in peace. Let's
Yes.
enjoy their company, and make sure that good things happen to them and good
Yes.
people help them and
Yes.
make them work together. That's the way I want it to stay.
I agree.
All right, so Michelle, let's make sure everybody knows where they can find you and your books. You've got the first book in the series is already out, and then there's the series. Remind me again, the name of this. The original series was
So
Charlie.
the original, yeah, the Charlie Kingsley Mysteries, that's the main series, and then the Redemption Detective Agency is a spinoff, and the Redemption Detective Agency has more like actual pet detectives in it.
Mhm.
And that's going to have the next two books coming out. In Mysterious Case, the Missing Motive is book one in that series, and you don't have to, like I said, you don't have to read the Charlie King if you may want to,
Yeah.
but you don't have to read the Charlie Kingsley Mysteries, nor do you have to read the Secret of Redemption series.
On a technical note here, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Charlie Kingsley Mysteries are available in Kindle Unlimited. So
Yes.
if people are part of that program and they want to discover you without spending any extra money, they can get started on your
Yes.
writing there. As far as right now, at least, the new series is available in all the marketplaces, which means it can't be in Kindle Unlimited. A lot of people don't understand why we don't put books in Kindle Unlimited. It's because if you do that, you can't. They won't allow you to put it anywhere. I can't give a copy away of a
know.
book that I've got in Kindle Unlimited to anybody. Maybe
Can't put it in the
we'll give it to
library,
a friend
either.
but
Yeah.
we're not supposed to. Um, anyway, so that's where your books can be found right now.
But it should, if depending on, so I'm thinking, so like June of 2025, somewhere around there, definitely, if you are a Kindle Unlimited reader, check, because at that point, the Redemption Detective Agency should be moved into Kindle Unlimited.
So what people need to do is just, if you're a Kindle Unlimited person and that's what your budget is for reading, start with the original series. and start reading that. And by the time you get done with it, then
It'll be
maybe
ready for you.
you're ready and you can keep on moving on. Okay, so if people want to find you online on social media and find out more about you and stay in touch with you, how can they do that?
So it's probably easier just to go to my website, mpwnovels.com. And then they have that's my main website. You can get on my list and my newsletter list. And then you can also check all the social media. So I've got, the accounts on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. All of that.
And you have a regular handle on those? How do they
Yes.
find you? Michele PW
So
or?
Michele PW author is, I think that's the Facebook one, and then the Michele PW is Instagram. So, and I don't remember my TikTok one, but it's probably Michele PW author.
But going to the website is usually the best thing,
Yeah.
And sometimes things change. Sometimes the Amazon algorithm decides, hey, there's something wrong with this account, and we're just going to kick this author off of here.
Yes.
Good. Please knock on wood. It does happen to some authors, and it's completely out of their control. And sometimes, as far as we can tell, they did absolutely nothing wrong, but an algorithm determined something or whatever. So going to an author's website, signing up for their newsletter list is a great way to make sure that you're going to be able to know
Right.
where you can find new works from that author, regardless of what happens anywhere else.
Yes. Exactly. So that's why MPW Novels is great. And that way, if a new social networking platform might pop up, because they do from time to time. So then it would be added to that too. To be easier to find.
And of course, there's things that we put in our newsletters that
Yes.
just you don't see anywhere else. So.
Exactly.
All right, Michele, it has been a pleasure. We're a little bit late getting this one going here. With your move and stuff, we had a couple of delays on this, but I'm glad that we got together. I'm really excited about finding out more about Scout and seeing the new adventures there, and just really appreciate you taking time to be with us.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. I really I had a good time.
All right. Make sure you subscribe to the Cozy Pet Podcast wherever it is that you found us, on YouTube or Spotify or Apple Podcasts or on Amazon or wherever. We're all over the place. Subscribe, and we'll have some more authors and pets for you to find out about coming up very soon.